What is up, my friends? Welcome to Rebel and Create's Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 7 to 14, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 17th year of marriage. So yeah, I'm in the thick of it, the adventure of fatherhood. I'm working daily to rebel against the low expectations set for fathers and create a world where fatherhood matters. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world for good through the way we embrace fatherhood. I believe the role of the father is to serve, guide, provide, protect, and have fun in the messiness of it. Super pumped for you to meet today's guest, Chris Nelson. This is a powerful and raw conversation. Chris shares about his life transformation through many changes, including divorce and now the merging of 2 families. This is truly powerful, and I know it'll speak to the depths of your soul, especially as many men struggle with the feeling of being alone or having to kind of go through life alone. If you enjoy the conversation, please share it and write a review on iTunes. Welcome to a new day for fatherhood. What's up? Welcome to Rebel and Create's Fatherhood Field Notes. I'm super pumped to be sitting down here with Chris. How are you today, Chris?
I'm great. It's great to be here, Ned.
Heck yeah, it's going to be good, man. Like as I read through and as we've talked, I just go, man, this guy's got a wealth of story and life to share that other dudes are going to grow from.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go along with that wealth of story and, some advice is a wealth of kids as well. So.
It's going to be good. It's going to be really good. I'm going to ask you a few questions just so like people can get to know who's sitting here with me right now. Okay. So you live in Northern California. Mm-hmm. How old are you right now?
I'm 34 years old. I live in South Placer County.
Okay. And you're engaged right now?
I am.
Okay. And you and your fiance have how many kids collectively?
We have 6 kids combined. So.
And what are the ages?
So we got, hopefully I'm going to get this right because we've had a few birthdays. We have a 2-year-old. We have a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, 2 6-year-olds, and an 8-year-old.
And the 2 6-year-olds are not twins.
Not twins, but they want to pretend to be twins.
There you go.
They do everything together.
All right, so clearly, just in that little bit, you're like, okay, there's some story here that we're going to get into. Okay, cool. And you guys, I think you said you're getting married in October in Yosemite. So you love the outdoors.
Yeah, we are going to attempt to have a COVID wedding in Yosemite.
Black market wedding?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
That should be fun. Okay, and then for work, what is it that you do to provide for the family?
For work, I am a project manager for, the field would be heavy civil construction, so Caltrans type work. I run bridge projects in Northern California, but kind of like I said before, I get to be a big kid. I get to play with the bigger toys. Okay.
That sounds awesome. Did I ask you how old you are?
Yes.
I did. Okay, so everyone's like, this guy's not 50. He's 34,
yes,
right?
34.
Oh, man. Okay, you've lived some life the last 14 years of your adult life. When you think about being a dad and the different spaces that you've been in the last 8 years, what have been some good resources that you've come across through like transitions as a father?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'm not a big reader, so obviously books that are fairly easy to read have always been my resource, but the 2 biggest resources are podcasts, because I have hour and a half commutes every single day. I can just flip something on and listen to it and just absorb that by myself.
Yep.
And the second, and that's kind of just an overall resource just for life, is to find older men, mentors that can kind of call you out on stuff, give you advice. Those 2 resources have been monumental.
Yeah, I just did a podcast yesterday with a dude just strictly on mentors, and it just seems like dudes who are really striving to grow in life have figured out that you can't do it on your own and that you need people to speak into your life.
Right, and sometimes you have to find out the hard way. That you can't do it on your own, but it's good to have somebody who is going to tell you to pick yourself back up, or hey, those problems aren't so uncommon as you think they are.
Yeah. See, that's good. The problems aren't so uncommon. I think that's healthy, because even with our kids, right? Sometimes our kid will come to us with a problem, and in our mind we're like, that's not a big deal, right? But it's like our job is to come alongside them, help them, their emotional health, like okay, I see why you're frustrated, and like work through it with them. But I don't know why we think at 18 or 19 or 20, now that I'm a man, I just figured out on my own. I don't know where that concept came from. We still need those older folks to like give us some guidance.
Yeah, and I think what I heard it best is, with kids and dealing with their emotions, is, you got to give your kids a little bit of grace, with dealing with their emotions. I'm 34 years old and I still can't figure out my emotions sometimes.
Yeah. Why do I feel this way? It's like puberty all over again. When you think of the role of the father, how would you define that, what the role of the father is?
I'm a big advocate for, leading by example. I think that your kids are going to grasp onto more of what you do by your actions than what you're telling them to do. So if I can lead, my role is it's several different roles. I have 4 boys, 2 girls. My role for the boys is to show them how, you can be a strong Christian leader, how I treat their mom, how I deal with conflict with their mom, and talking within those, argumentative or contentious moments. And for the girls, I'm the bar. I set the bar for them. I want them to strive to find somebody equal to or better than I am.
Yeah, that's hefty, right? Because it's not about what you say. It's about the day in and day out consistent actions that you take. Absolutely. And not when it's easy. Like you said, how do I handle conflict with their mom? Like that's how they're going to handle it one day. So it's so easy to justify when I'm pissed my actions, Right. But it's like our kids are watching us all the time. And man, setting the bar for our daughters, that's big. It's big time, big opportunity.
Yeah, kids are like little scientists. They're testing you out. They're observing, and they're putting it in the back of their mind. And as a father, it's I don't take that lightly, and I'm extremely passionate about it. It's something that when you sit back and you look at it, like 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, when they're grown men, grown women, what I'm doing right now impacts. I'm laying this. We use the example of like building this ship. We're building the ship for them right now.
Yeah, it's cool to think, 20, 30 years down the road, even 100 years down the road, like when you and I are gone, it's like our name might not be remembered, but hopefully our actions and the intentionality that we lived our life with is still influencing each of our families.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is big time. And it feels like we think about that for, a couple hundred years ago, maybe when we think about the founding of the United States, like we think of those dudes and think how important that is. But at some point, it's like, I don't know that I really look at my grandfather or great-grandfather like with that same respect.
Right.
And I don't know. And I mean, that's why I'm doing this stuff, is because at some point things are lost and I want them to be back. That there's an importance around legacy. Okay, so this podcast is called Fatherhood Field Notes. So we're going to open up your field notes. We're going to dig into your story a little bit so we can all learn and gain from that. But the mantra is rebel and create, right? And it could be as simple as I'm rebelling against being on the phone while I'm driving with my kids, to I'm rebelling against being, playing a video game, so that I can create intentional time with my kids. Whatever. It could be small, or it could be like, I didn't have a great dad as a kid, so I'm rebelling against this, that, or the other to create this. So what's something that you are rebelling against now, currently, or overall with your life? And then what do you hope to create out of that rebellion?
Yeah, that's great. I kind of wish I came up with that mantra, rebel and create. I use the hashtag all the time. But that's kind of a 2-part question for me. As a dad, as a father, I'm rebelling against this odd notion that society tells us that we just have to show up. And I think that's maybe something that's generational. I think that for my parents, dads were like, oh, you just show up, be there at their games. But that's not enough for me, and I don't think we should allow our peers to run under that kind of notion. I want to be able to dive into my kids' lives, be involved, and equip them emotionally for the future.
Why does it matter to you Why do you want that?
I want that because I think that from my past, from growing up, that's something that I want to build off of. And I see myself now as a grown man and the things that I deal with. And I look back and I say, well, is that something that I could have been better equipped with as a child? And the second part is, how do I equip my children with that? A few short years ago, I had no idea, what to do. And I'm still figuring it out, but you start out with mentors and you start out with books and you slowly start piecing this thing together and you realize that, hey, it's not as hard, but there is a lot of intentionality that you have to have there.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said it's a 2-part question for you. So the first one was rebelling against the minimum expectations of just showing up. Mm-hmm. And what else were you rebelling against?
What was the second? You had mentioned something else there. Rebelling against was fatherhood.
So you had said as a man what you're defined by. That a lot of men are defined by their past, their job, their salary, or their hobby. And when you said that to me, I was like, dude, that resonates a lot with me. Like, I kind of hate the question, even in this podcast. When I first started it, I wasn't going to ask, what do you do for a living? Because it sizes us. Like, as soon as you tell me, I can kind of estimate, okay, you probably drive a truck because of what you do, okay? And then, it's probably a Ford because you're American boy, okay? Right. And then you probably make about this much money. So I start making these assumptions about who you are, right? Just based on what you tell me you do. So
start sizing each other up immediately.
Yeah, which I hate that. I even hate when I meet somebody, it's like, what do you do? It's like, but it sounds awkward to say, hey, what are you into? But I'm working on making that a question I ask dudes instead of what do you do? So why are you rebelling against that? You specifically said, past. A man's not defined by his past, his job, his salary, or his hobbies. So,
right.
So what's up? Why rebel against that? Why does it matter?
So rebelling against, I call them, what are your priorities as a man? And, Chris 3 years ago, his priorities were, deeply into his job, defined by the work I was doing. And even compared to other project managers, hey, I'm running a $90 million job. It's like a small company. I'm young, I've progressed really quick, and I was completely defined on that. I was defined on my hobbies. I like bass fishing. I like doing CrossFit.
What's that? I'm just kidding.
You haven't drank the juice yet, Ned. But I had all these priorities that weren't my wife at the time, now ex-wife, and my family. And that part of the question is, I'm rebelling against the fact that those matter more than your family. That
right.
Work, hobbies matter more than your family.
Now let me ask you this: now that as you've rebelled against that, are you any less killer at your job than you were 3 years ago?
No, I'm better.
You're better.
I'm more efficient at my job. I'm happier at my job.
Because you're taking less of it home with you mentally, right?
Right.
Dude, that's so powerful, man. It's so powerful because that's my story too, is just being defined by things that I'm not necessarily supposed to be defined by. And then if they get ripped away, you're destroyed.
Right.
But you're still doing those things. It's just it's not replacing what really you should be defined by. But would you say that, and this is probably like a chicken or the egg thing, but that you were unhappy in your marriage and so those things were the thing that defined you, or you allow those things to define you and so that it kind of put a crippling on your marriage?
That's a good question. And I think it's more of I was allowing that to define me, and it was crippling my marriage.
I think that's just, it's not just a sentence. I think that's a super significant statement for dudes to pause and ask themselves, right. Like, what am I defined by? If people talk about me, is it, man, he loves his wife, right. And he is really great with his kids. Or is the first thing about your hobby or about your car or about your house or about, like all those other things. When it comes down to it, though, if I overheard somebody talking about me and they said, man, you're a great dad, that would mean a lot more to me than he runs a whatever project or company or whatever.
Right.
But why don't we, on the day in and day out, seek that? I think it's because why do you think? Why do you think we don't seek that over the job and hobby stuff?
Well, I think you look at what gives you instant gratification.
Dude,
right?
Yes, for sure.
It's great to go and say, hey, look, I killed it at my job today.
Yeah.
I went in, I negotiated, X number of dollars out, or, hey, look, I posted a great time on a workout, and now number one in my gym, which really doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, right? Or bass fishing. Hey, I got a $50,000 boat and we're fishing for a 2-gram pot. It doesn't make any sense, but I caught the biggest fish, and it's instant and it feels great, but it's not long term.
Yeah, but that's what's hard is you go home after a killer day catching a fish or crushing it at work, and it's a long game, right? I mean, it's small moments. You have little kids, so it's small wins amongst utter chaos that you have less control of than you do at home or at work probably. Right. So you got to look back at the home stuff over like a 1-year period, 5-year period where you get those instant gratification in the hobbies or work.
Yeah, I think one of the, and I've listened to a lot of like sports-minded podcasts. I listen to a guy, Ben Bergeron, does a podcast called Chasing Excellence. And this is just, it's a mindset. And he brought up this analogy of your priorities, imagine them as like crystal glass balls. Your family, your friends, spirit, work. Well, the only one of those balls that is rubber is your work, right? It's always going to bounce back. You're always going to have opportunity to go somewhere else, or you can revamp your career somehow. But the minute you drop family, some of these things are either broken beyond repair, take years to piece back together. And
that's good.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Because I look at work, and it actually makes me a better project manager, because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a decision here. And if I get fired, then I guess I get fired. I got a little bit, I'm not running around reckless, but I have more confidence in that, I can rebuild this career.
Right. Man, that's good. I don't think enough of us take the pressure off of work in that manner to go, this is going to be okay, right? This is maybe one deal, right? There's going to be others out there. Right. I don't want to have that same view with my wife,
Right.
I want to build this long-term relationship. So, man, I love what you're rebelling against. So, I mean, we already kind of hear it, but what are some of the things that you want to create out of what you're rebelling against?
Creating, especially for my children, creating an example of a strong, Christian person. I'm a man, so I'm not a woman example to my daughters, but I can definitely show them how a Christian man should treat them, where their priorities are. Emotional health, I think, is a big thing for kids. So much of the time it's like, hey, be quiet, go in your room. Hey, why are you feeling that way? Why don't you want to do this? And that it's an even greater role when you're blending families and the kids are in separate homes, and then they come back to you and you have that transition day, we call it. And to try and you got to give them some grace on transition day, man, because they are going from one routine to a new routine, and they do it every 5 days, and it can be tough. So
yeah, man, I dig what you're creating, because it's work. It is a lot of work. All right, let's dig into your story a little bit. So I know there's a lot of different ways that we could go on this, right, but I want to dig into, 34, 6 kids, all under 8 years old. I mean, right off the bat, let's just ask some questions like, how do you show up at home after work? How do you save some energy so that when you show up, you're ready to jump in the swing of things? Now, I guess, how often are all 6 kids there at the same time?
So we've worked it out. We have 3 co-parents. So I'll just kind of run through the logistics. Yeah. On my side, I have 2 daughters and a son. The 2 daughters are from my previous marriage. My son is from a girlfriend. And then my fiance has 3 boys, all from her ex-husband. And so we went through this past month, actually August 1st marked the first time we had all the kids on the same schedule. So either they're all there, either it's all mayhem, or it is all quiet on the Western Front type of deal.
That must have been some finagling to get that to work out.
There's some finagling, a lot of just dealing with different personalities. You're dealing with, 3 other people and then their significant others as well. So I like to think of it as when I'm, I have a 45-minute commute home from the project right now, and I take that time to kind of decompress. And then the minute I walk in the house, it's like taking off the hard hat and putting on the dad hat. And you just have to be really intentional about saying, all right, I'm not going to bring work home. I'm not going to work at home. Same thing with let's go put our phone down in one spot, and I want to focus on the kids.
So run me through how you decompress in the car. You have 45 minutes. So do you have any kind of routine in the car?
Yeah, so typically the ride home will start out with, I call my fiance, say, hey, I'm on my way home. Just letting you know I'm on my way home. And depending on kind of the stress level that day, I'll go from, kind of like a hard rock, playlist.
Yeah.
And to kind of like a podcast, maybe like a comedy or something like that to kind of loosen me up. Or if it's just a normal day, it's like, let's listen to a sports podcast. Let's listen to, this podcast too. I am a student of this podcast. So it's taking the time to take my mind off of work, because I can think about work all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, I ask because it's like that transition is something that I think we all need to work on, because I love to work. Mm-hmm. So it's like yesterday, for example, I had to leave the office, drive to pick up my daughter from soccer, and then go home.
Okay.
And it's like I'm working on this big project, and so I'm listening to this book that's kind of helping me with it. So I'm listening to it on the way there, but that's really keeping me in work mode. So then as soon as I pick her up, I put on some music that's more of like a fun music to get me out of this work mode and get my mind off of it. So you saying you're going to turn on some rock, or, you're going to listen to sports or something funny, or maybe something about fatherhood. It's transitioning you from that space of work to the mental state of just being you without work.
Right. And one of the things, we talk about children going through transition days. Parents go through transition days too. We have what's called a 2-2-5, so there are blocks of 5 days where we don't have kids. And so it's almost like, you're in your early 20s with no kids, imagine that. And you have 5 days where you can go on date nights and you can, work out immediately when you get home, let's say. And then all the kids roll back in, and it's like, all right, now you got to, it's back into, a different mode. So yeah. There's some days where, that transition day is tough for the kids, and it's tough for the parents too.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some tips that you have about blending the family, right? So you had 3 kids, she had 3 kids. What are some tips if a dude is going to go through that scenario of being a blended family, or even, how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, I'll start off by saying there's definitely no blending families for dummies book out there.
You couldn't find it?
Could not find it. There's plenty of podcasts, but I think, if I were to run through like maybe let's say a top 3, first one is, and it sounds simple, but it's do you even want to blend your families together? A lot of people are in that dating lifestyle where, they're just, kind of, playing the field, for lack of a better word. But what Heather and I, Heather's my fiance, we decided right off the bat, yes, we do want to blend our families. And then it's, well, how long do we want to wait? So most people say that 6 months is kind of that magical number where, that new relationship vibe kind of starts to wear off a little bit, and you start to kind of get into, all right, do I really want to be with this person? Ultimately, Heather and I decided on 8 months, and it wasn't because I was unsure about a relationship, but logistically wise, you think about it for the kids, right? They're going from 0% of this person to this person steps into their lives, and let's say immediately it's 100%. Well, it's kind of like a rapid ramp up. I wanted to give the kids like kind of that slow, if it's a graph, it's that 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
With a nice slow transition. And you got to decide, hey, do I want my kids to meet, my significant other? Is it for convenience? Is it because I just don't like not being able to see, my girlfriend 50% of the time because I have my kids 50%? And I get kind of passionate about that because too many times I see, so-and-so, they said this is just their friend. And it's like, well, you're not really fooling anybody,
Yeah, yeah.
This is my friend. 2 months later, they're my girlfriend. 2 months later, they moved in. And it's like no regard for the kids. They go through some of these, divorce is a traumatic event for them.
Yeah.
And so that would be number one. Do you even want to? And let's consider if it's for convenience or you're looking out for your kid's best interest.
That's a really good, man. Yeah, because the convenience piece, I could see how it'd just be so easy to stumble into that, but it's like really figuring out how to put your kids first. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was one. You said you had a couple to share. Yeah,
the second one is, and Heather and I did this too, is meeting the co-parents.
Kind of
prior
gnarly.
to, yeah. Yeah, it is. I was nervous. We did meet at a pub, so you could at least have a beer in your hand when you're talking to the boys' dad. But I think it shows kind of like that olive branch type of deal where you're reaching out and saying, "Hey, I'm not here to replace you. I'm here to co-parent with you, whatever that looks like to them." And I have heard plenty of good things about, hey, you met those co-parents beforehand. I've never heard of anybody doing that. I think that's a great idea. I'm going to try that out. And it just kind of sets the tone, that we're here for the kids. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm not here to replace you. And I think the other co-parents actually do appreciate that.
So how that conversation, it went well then. There was a mutual, all right, we're going to do this for the kids.
Right. And I've had them go, really, really, really good. I've had them go mediocre, and I've had them just tank on me. And it kind of sets the tone right away, as a dad, like for the girls, like I want to know that their mom's significant other understands the magnitude, like understands my passion. Maybe they're not as passionate about, fatherhood as me. Maybe they're not a dad. Maybe they are. But I want to be able to convey that. And if that's met with, kind of apprehension, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. That's heavy, man. Yeah. Because it's like, it is what it is, right? The story has unfolded as it unfolded, and here you are, and then there's these things that now you have to navigate, and clearly you're intentional and passionate about it, so you don't want to just be passive and just put your head in the sand, but you go, okay, I'm going to do with the most of my ability. I'm going to be engaged in this and let people know where I stand and hope that we can find middle ground.
Right. And then really, it sounds cliche, but the focus is the kids. If you continue to remind yourself of that, because all types of personalities get involved, feelings get hurt, motives, you're theorizing, she's trying to, she's doing this to try and, anger me. But the co-parenting waters it's changing. It's like a marathon, and Heather and I both realize we're at the beginning of this thing, and let's not look too far ahead. Let's just kind of deal with it as it comes up. And I will give her props, is that she is way better at dealing with, like, as a people person than I am. I'm like that old school contractor where, I said it, so go ahead and do it type of thing.
Yeah.
And that's where, separating work and home life comes in. But we both recognize those are our strengths and weaknesses, and we try and work together to, ultimately get what we need for the kids.
Yeah, man, it's good. All right, so it was you guys waited 8 months, and then you met the co-parents,
right? And
then was there a third thing, or was that in there?
The third thing is just give your kids some grace, and I don't want to use it as a crutch, meaning like, hey, they can sit and throw a tantrum for an hour because they didn't get something that they wanted, and you just got to let them do it, and there's no consequences. But I remember, kind of halfway through the relationship with Heather and I, we were a year in, I sat down and I counted number of, I call them traumatic events for the kids, and more notably for the girls. And I added up, and I think I had like 15. It's
wow.
Like the divorce, mom and dad move out, mom and dad tell them that mommy and daddy aren't living together. There's brothers born from someone that, that's not their mom. You have my relationship, their mom's relationship. So you start adding these things up, and you're like, man, it is crammed into a 1.5 year space. Give your kids some grace because they are going through some big changes.
Yeah.
And just like I said before, I'm 34 years old. I can't figure out my emotions sometimes. How can I possibly expect a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old to figure out their emotions on the fly?
Yeah. What are some pieces of advice of how you felt like you either did or didn't come alongside them well?
One of the things with the girls is, and I guess I could preface this by, I went from being, somebody that wasn't as involved in my kid's life to being involved as much as I could. I made that change. A couple of things, and I think I probably have better examples with the boys, with Heather's boys, I call them my bonus sons. I don't like to use the word step. But it's really trying to connect with them on, the oldest one really likes Pokemon. Probably doesn't know the right way to play it, but we go up and it's a new set of rules every time, and just spending 15-20 minutes with him. For the middle child, he's a great baseball player. We'll go out and we'll just hit baseballs off the tee. And then, the youngest, he just likes to wrestle. We'll wrestle all day long. So the girls are a little bit different, transitioning from being a, quote unquote girl dad to all of a sudden having 3 bonus sons is definitely a change. But with the girls, we do a lot of things of, hey, I'm just going to take you and let's go, get ice cream. Let's go for a bike ride. My youngest daughter, she'll sit in front of the TV. So it's like, hey, if you like to do that, let's sit down and watch cartoons for an hour. So it's connecting with them on their level.
Yeah. Man, that's really good. So you made a comment a minute ago about you weren't really an engaged dad to being an engaged dad. Mm-hmm. That something triggered that change in you, right? I mean, I know clearly you went through a traumatic event as well, right? A lot going on. So what was it that made you go, oh man, I'm in, right? And then also now that you're in, you're going to get 3 other kids to be in with. What was it that allowed you to not just find some crutch or not just get more deep into work, but to work on yourself and then, to then find a lady that you want to spend your life with and merge your families together? I mean, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, and it's a great question, and it's got some really heavy material attached to it. Divorce is it's horrible. I don't know any other way to describe it. It's a tearing apart. It's not a clean cut. It's just ripping apart of a family. And every marriage goes through their problems. I think a lot of times people think that maybe some of their problems are really unique when they're not. And if we just spoke up, and myself and my ex-wife, we were having issues in our marriage. We had the two girls at the time. I was, deeply involved in defining myself and with work and just screwed up priorities. And I chose to deal with my frustrations in the marriage. And probably, I say the most boneheaded way I could possibly think of is I stepped outside my marriage and I had an affair. And then, as time goes by, that woman that I was having the affair with said, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And the consequence or result of that was my son, my youngest son. And that was like a bomb went off in my life.
Dude, yeah.
You go from...
It's heavy.
It is. And I think, this isn't necessarily addressed a lot, and not a lot of people talk about it, but when you have a child associated with an affair, and, my son did nothing wrong, but it's very public and you can't hide. And it's embarrassing and it's shameful. And it brought to the forefront a lot of things that I was doing wrong. I wasn't the Christian leader. I wasn't going, I'd stopped going to church even though I'd grown up in the church all my life. I knew the expectations that were required of me and the roles that I needed to fill, and I just chose not to do that. And when that announcement came, I had a choice. I could have laid down and let life just mow me over. Yeah. I could have just dove deeper into my job, probably lost my job because I would have, lost focus on things. Or you can pick yourself back up. And it's not as simple as just picking yourself back up and saying, all right, I'm just going to tough it out. Because trying to tough it out is how I got there, Wow.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So here I am. I have to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I have all the naysayers in the background. Hey, you're not a good husband. You're not a good dad. You don't pay attention to your kids. And there was an eventual divorce, but I had a choice to make. I said, well, I can't be a good husband because I'm divorced. I'm going through a divorce process, but I can be a great dad, and I can choose to make that decision now. And I looked at the effort I was putting into my work and working out and everything, bass fishing, duck hunting, you name it, snowboarding. And I said, each guy, and I believe this, each man, father, has the ability to be a great dad. It's where do you want to focus your attention? Yeah. And I said, what, if I just took 50% of what I'm doing snowboarding, 50% of work, and took all these percentages, I could pour all that into my kids with the same effort and dedication that I have for my job and for working out. And you know what? I bet you that's going to make me a pretty good dad. So
what was the thing though with the naysayers, with the shame, with the guilt, the bomb that went off, what was the thing that made you go, all right, well, I'm going to be a great dad, and then just start there?
I think, honestly, it was I wanted to prove people wrong. In the state of mind that I was in, I had that mindset. It's like, all right, you say that I can't do it. You say that I am, not a good dad. And you're right. I'm not. But you're also saying that you're never going to improve. And I look back and, we mentioned earlier, not letting your past mistakes define you.
Yeah. Dang. That's good. How do you forgive yourself? How do you forgive yourself and move on? It's like, I'm sure it takes time and takes healing, but do you have anything, any thought around that?
Therapy.
Therapy, yeah.
Man, it is okay to go to therapy as a dude. Talk about your feelings. I know everybody doesn't want to do it. And this is how I know this is a God thing, is that I sat down in my therapist's office who, it's not like I went through a Christian therapy center and figured out right away that this man was a a strong Christian man. And we instantly connected on that. And I don't know any other way other than running back to God, his open arms, to recover from something like this. We talk about building the ships. Well, my parents built a ship. They didn't build, a battleship or anything like that. That's just meant to like come back looking great. They built a ship, and it was enough of a basis in Christ for me to go out, have trials and tribulations, come back, and be able to sail back home in order to rebuild that ship and go back out.
It's good, man. It's gnarly.
It is. And I have gotten over fears of talking about it, publicly, because it is public and it is my past, but it doesn't define who I am.
Dude, there's just so much there, as I think of dudes who are listening. One is you're clearly, simple to say your past doesn't define you. So really self-reflecting and going like, what pieces am I letting reflect, define me right now? But I think even deeper is for us dudes to really look and go, okay, what activities am I participating in right now that are leading me towards difficulty? And clearly if you could have dodged some of those bullets, it would be great, right? But it's not like you would change certain things because you are who you are and you've built what you have. But the pain was tough. And some of us dudes are participating in things that we shouldn't be doing right now that are setting us up for some serious pain. Right. Thinking that no one's going to find out or whatever. But the reality is it can all blow up in your face.
Absolutely.
And then you're putting your kids, you're putting people through things. Is it manageable? Is it possible? Is it? Yes. I mean, you're a great example of that. But I think the beauty of you sharing this is, one, for the dudes who's struggling with it right now, to just stop. Like to just stop and decide, okay, I'm going to be a good dude now. I'm going to be a good dad now before I have a bunch more work to do,
right?
And go to work on yourself. I think the therapy is huge. I don't know why we act like it doesn't matter. Marriage therapy has helped us a ton.
Oh yeah.
It's we wouldn't be where we are today without it, and I don't know why people think it's so bad. I think a lot more people are going to get in therapy than you realize. And it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think, you talk about people who are continuing with those vices, right? And it sounds simple, but find another dude that you can be real with and can be real with you. Cut those things out of your life. I'll give the best example I have is social media. I don't have any social media on my phone. I still have accounts, but Heather has them all on her phone. And she is like, anything, if anybody emails me, tries to contact me, it's all on her phone. So she monitors all that, and I'm a more productive person at work. I'm more productive around the kids, and most of the time I'm not browsing on Instagram or Facebook, just doing nothing.
Yeah. That's good, man. Well, dude, I'm going to ask you my final question in a minute here, but before we do, is there any last thoughts or anything that you want to make sure to say or share, as you think of other dads listening? We covered a lot of really good stuff, but I don't want to close up if there's anything else that's kind of like on your mind that you would want to talk about.
No, I think we did touch on a lot of heavy stuff. But, guys out there, you're not alone. Those problems aren't as uncommon as you think. We got hundreds and hundreds of years and generations of men out here. And somebody's got to have gone through what you're going through right now. So, just seek out those people.
Dude, I think that's so good, because you're not alone is one thing to say, but it's a total another thing to say somebody else has gone through it. And to think that somebody else has gone through it gives you an opportunity to either go out and find that person to help you, or to know that, dude, some other dude is struggling like you are, so you need to man up and get through it and figure it out so that you can then be a spokesperson for somebody else, which is what you're doing right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And us dudes, we need to be, sometimes I think, man, if it's just me, dude, I'll have a mediocre life. If it's just me, whatever. I don't need to not be fat, moron. But when you start thinking, man, other dudes like my brothers need me to level up so that they can too, or my son or my daughters, right? I think that then all of a sudden your why, your motivation to get deep into yourself and grow is it's much better if it's not selfish reasons, right?
Yeah, once you realize the magnitude of your actions on your children, and you're looking generations down.
Oh man,
it's a wake up call.
It's heavy, yeah, it's big time, and it's possible for anyone. There's so much self-help, self-motivation, self-whatever stuff out there, which I love a lot of it, but I think so much of it we're going after just to make more money or to build something bigger, and maybe that's possible for every single person. I don't know, but I do know that every single dude, like you said, every dad has the opportunity to be a great father. Right. So you might not be able to be whatever you want. Like, I'm clearly not going to be a professional basketball player, right? But I can be whoever I want, right? I can go out and be the husband, man, friend, integrity, the character that I want. I could develop that. It's going to take work, but I could do that.
Yeah, I think maybe just my last thought is when you go through a divorce and there are co-parents, a motivating factor is that you know how somebody else, another man that's going to come into your children's lives. Do you, let's say that person is ideal, they're a great co-parent, but do you want to let that person be the only person that influences your kids for their future? And for me, coming from that, that sports mindset, that competitive, it's like, no, I want to be there. I want to be number one. I want to be the guy that my daughters look to. And they can ask that other person for advice, and I'm going to co-parent, as long as I can with them, whatever we need to do. But I'm their dad. I want to be number one.
Yeah, and you got to fight for that sometimes, and it sounds like your situation for the most part has not been where you have, gnarly fight for it. But there are so many dudes who just give up that fight of like, well, I guess I'll just let it go, Yeah. No, man, your kids need you.
Right.
They need you. That's big. All right, man, here's my last question. It's a legacy question, so kind of stuff we've been talking about, generations down the road. So say in 30 years, you raise these 6 kids. They're out in the world living with their own families, their own relationships, and you're standing out on the street peering through their windows, taking a peek into their lives. What do you hope to see?
I love the legacy question. That's one of our 5 family core values. When I look out, 30 years, I want to be able to look at my children and see growth beyond the platform that I've given them. I've made significant steps as a father from where my dad was. For the boys, I want them to make significant steps for them being fathers to their children. For the girls, I want to look into that house and see, I know, we always look as at the man as a leader of the family, but I also want them to understand that as Christian women, they can stand up and speak their mind. They can be powerful women. And I think that both Heather and I have set a great example for those, and their mom. I want to see. I would love to see, for one, grandkids, right? And I want to see little bits and pieces of my home and theirs, and how they've made their home unique and taken on that role, and continue to grow and focus on the family.
Man, that's huge. It's good. It's really good. So something you said in there, you said legacy was one of your 5 core values as a family. Right. So what's up with the core values for your family?
So I developed core values, I think about a year and a half ago.
Nice.
And the reason I came up with core values was the point of core values is to know, hey, these are 5 core values of my family. If I ever have to make a decision, they're already made for me. So faith, family, love, integrity, and legacy.
Love it.
And whenever I come home and I'm like, man, I really want to work out, but the kids need, Heather needs help with the kids. Well, our core value is family. One of those. Working out is not on those 5, is not on that list. So it's the decision is made for you. We have them posted up in the house. Hey kids, these are our family core values. We have them above our little, we have a Bible nook, a prayer area for the kids, and we have them posted there as well. And it's just a quick 5-word reminder of, hey, this is what we stand for.
That's good. Dude, really good. Chris, man, I was really excited to talk fatherhood with you today. I know we've, messaged each other, and I see pictures of your family, and I just was excited to hear your story and then know that it came with, there was a lot to it, and I think that when men are vulnerable and they share their story, it's like, I learned so much, and I know if I'm learning so much, other dudes are too. So dude, keep being that intentional man that you are. Keep focusing on your family, loving your fiance, and building your family together. And dude, I just love what you're doing. And I love that you're 34 with 6 kids, 8 and under. You're a beast, dude. That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. I enjoyed the time here and chatting.
Yeah, dude, I look forward to just hearing more about your kids and getting to know you better. So thanks for being on the Fatherhood Field Notes podcast.
Awesome. Thank you.
Man, was that incredible or what? I so appreciated Chris's vulnerability and transparency to share his story with us. A couple things that stuck out is him talking about your problems aren't as uncommon as you think they are. My past doesn't define who I'm going to be. Super good. And then lastly, your marriage problems are not unique. Speak up. Get to work on those things. Really powerful stuff. Hey, thank you guys so much for listening. Every Monday I put out the Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, which you're listening to now. If you're interested in a shorter podcast, I put one out every Friday. It falls in the same spot, Rebel and Create, but it's Craft of Fatherhood. And I just discuss a question or idea or thought. So if you have something you want me to talk about, send it over, ned@rebelandcreate.com. My goal is by my 100th podcast, which is just around the corner, to have 100 reviews on iTunes. I am quite a distance away from it, so help me out. Go write a review on iTunes. That would be super rad of you. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Rebel and Create's Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Do not be like everybody else. Be yourself. That is who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guy, Ned. Shout together. Let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact and create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. Talk to you next time.